Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great day and you are all safe out there. So, I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time now. It's actually been about 3 months or so since I've wanted to do this video, but I wanted to make sure that I got the facts right and I wanted to make sure that I did this case right. So, if you didn't notice from the title, we are going to be talking about Kyron Horman. This really hits close to home for me, and it's been a case that's really bothered me for a very long time. And I think part of it is because it's just so close to home. And I remember the day this happened. I remember the years after this incident. And it's just really bothered me, and there's no answers. There's a way that you can lean in, but it's all allegedly, and there is no one who has paid for this crime or disappearance. So, with that said, let's jump into it. So, this is the story of Kyron Horman. On June 4th of this year, it was the 12-year anniversary of his disappearance. He disappeared June 4th of 2010. So, who is Kyron? Kyron Richard Horman was born September 9th, 2002, in Portland, Oregon, to Desiree Young and Kane Horman, an engineer for Intel. They had gotten divorced when Desiree was 8 months pregnant with Kyron, with Young citing irreconcilable differences. The two had been granted shared custody of Kyron until 2004, but when Desiree was diagnosed with kidney failure that required extensive medical intervention, Kane took over full custody. Notwithstanding this fact, Young still remained an active part of Kyron's upbringing. I cannot even fathom what Desiree went through. I have 3 children of my own, and if this ever happened to any of them, I don't know how I would go on. So she's extremely strong. In 2007, Kane married Terry Moulton. She was born on March 14th of 1970. She was a substitute teacher originally from Roseburg. Kane became romantically involved with Moulton, Terry, around 2001, when he and Desiree were in the midst of divorcing. Kane and Terry married in 2007 while visiting Kauai, Hawaii. In December 2008, Moulton gave birth to a daughter, Kiara. Meanwhile, Kyron was a student at Skyline Elementary School near Forest Park. And this is where we're going to get into the day that Kyron went missing. Terry, Kyron's stepmother, drove him to Skyline Elementary School on June 4th, 2010, and stayed with him as he attended a science fair. There's just so many questions surrounding this day that do not make sense. Like me as a mother, I'm sitting here thinking about this day, and there's so many things I would have done differently. Terry said she left around 8:45 a.m. and last saw Kyron heading down the hall to his first class. So for this school, it was a 2-story school. And so basically what she said is she went up the stairs and she looked down the hallway and watched him get to his classroom door. And then she proceeded to go down the stairs and leave out of a side door. Kyron's usual bus driver, a classmate, and 2 of his classmates' family members saw Kyron go across the school parking lot with Terry and her infant daughter. So this is contradicting her statement of watching Kyron go into his classroom, because there are 4 other witnesses stating that she watched Terry, Kyron, and Kiara leave together. Though a fellow student reported seeing him at 9 a.m. near the school's south entrance walking out the door with his stepmother, Terry, Kyron did not report to any classes that day, nor did he board the bus later to come home. In fact, he has never been seen by anyone since that school science fair. So here's a picture of the last picture taken of Kyron, and it's when he was at his school science fair and he did his project on tree frogs. He is just the cutest little thing ever. And obviously we can note the CSI shirt, which is kind of, I don't know what to think about that. So things about this day that I don't quite understand is they got to the science fair and then she said she left at 8:45. But Kyron's school did not start that day until I believe 10 a.m. So she was going to leave him at the school almost 2 hours early without school even starting. That doesn't quite make sense to me, especially without talking to an adult before you leave this child there when school hasn't even started yet. I would have made sure and talked to a teacher, an adult, somebody at the school saying, hey, here's Kyron. I know he's early, but I'm going to leave him here now. Just so that way I am aware that there is another adult that knows my child is there. But she just watched him walk towards his classroom door, didn't confirm that he made it in the classroom, didn't confirm with the teacher that she knew he was there, or if there was even a teacher in the classroom. These are all questions that just don't make sense to me as a mother myself. Ironically, Kyron had a keen interest in forensic science. On the day he disappeared, he was wearing a CSI t-shirt bearing the logo from the CSI show. People think it's so weird, but I've watched all of the forensic files that they have on Netflix, and I used to listen to them while I was falling asleep. And everybody's like, why would you listen to that while you're falling asleep? That's so creepy. And it's actually the guy who voiced the, talked over the show. His voice is so soothing. But anyways, at 3:30 p.m., Terry and her husband, Kane, walked with their daughter, Kyra, to the bus stop to meet Kyron. The bus driver told them that the boy had not boarded the bus and to call the school to ask about his whereabouts. So I have a story about this that I can kind of understand how Terry and Kane were feeling. That is, if Terry didn't have anything to do with this, but I can understand kind of how maybe Kane was feeling. So my son was going to school and he was only about 5 at the time. And I went to go and get him off of the bus and all the kids filed out and then nobody else was coming out. And the bus driver looked at me confused and was like, who are you waiting for? And I said, my son's name. And he said, he never got on the bus today. I know for 100% fact my son was at school because I put him on the bus that morning. And I immediately started panicking. I called the school. My son's dad was getting ready to call 911. And I said, where's my son? And they're like, we put him on the bus. And I said, no, you didn't. His bus just got here and he's not on it. And they said, can you hold, please? I'm freaking out completely. What do you mean, can I hold? Where is my child? And so I was on hold. My son's dad's just pacing back and forth downstairs. He's getting ready to hop in his truck to go and search. He's calling 911 at this point. It felt like an eternity that I was on the phone waiting on hold, but I think it was only about 5 minutes. And she came back on the line and said, we found him. I'm like, what do you mean you found him? What? And it turns out that he got put on the wrong bus, and that bus would be circling around back to my neighborhood to come drop him off. But I tell you what, every most terrible scenario went through my brain that day and what could have happened. So I could not imagine for any of those things to actually come true. That is so terrifying. Terry did so, called the school. only to be informed by the school secretary that as far as anyone knew, Kyron had not been at school since early that day and that he had accordingly been marked absent. Realizing then that the boy was missing, the secretary called 911. Terry's statement to the police indicated that after leaving the school at 8:45 a.m., she ran errands at 2 different Fred Meyer grocery stores. Why you would need to go to 2 separate Fred Meyers, I don't know. That seems odd to me. And she did that until about 10:10 a.m. Between then and 11:39 a.m., she stated that she was driving her daughter around town in an attempt to use the motion of the vehicle to soothe the toddler's earache. I understand driving a fussy baby around in the car until they can finally kind of be lulled to sleep. But with an earache, that doesn't really make sense to me because that's pain in her ear. Like, she would need Tylenol, and then she would need to see a doctor and get antibiotics. So I'm a little sketched out about that part as well. Terry said that she then went to a local gym and exercised until about 12:40 p.m. By 1:21 p.m., she had arrived home and posted photos of Kyron at the science fair on Facebook. On June 12th, around 300 trained rescuers were on the ground searching wooded areas near the school. So I remember this happening. The search for Kyron, which spanned 10 days, was the largest in Oregon history and included over 1,300 searchers from Oregon, Washington, and California. Well, hello, Johnny. A reward posted for information leading to the discovery of Kyron, which was initially $25,000, expanded to $50,000 in late July 2010. Okay, and then this is another reason why myself, and my opinion is that Terry had something to do with his disappearance. Because in late June 2010, in the midst of the search, Kane was reportedly told by investigators that Terry had offered their landscaper, Rodolfo Sanchez, a lot of money to kill her husband. Sanchez testified in a deposition that Terry approached him to help kill her husband in January of 2010. 5 months before Kyron's disappearance. In her own disposition, Terry denied the charges. But what would this landscaper have to gain to make this accusation against her? Investigators convinced Sanchez to confront Terry while wearing an audio surveillance device, but they were unable to obtain any evidence and could not make an arrest. So she got away with that. On June 28th, Kane filed for divorce and obtained a restraining order against Terry. The divorce was granted, and Terry was eventually granted supervised visitation with her daughter. Meanwhile, in July 2010, a Multnomah County grand jury subpoenaed several friends of Terry's, including Dee Dee Spicer. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Spicer? Spicher. Who Terry and Kane described as having been in close communication with Terry and providing Terry with support and advice that is not in the best interest of our son, said Kane. According to law enforcement, Dee Dee was extremely cooperative and allowed a search of her property and car, as well as enduring 3 hours of questioning and detectives. On the day of Kyron's disappearance, Dee Dee abruptly left her work gardening for a homeowner on Germantown Road in northwest Portland around 11:30 a.m. and returned around 90 minutes later. She also allegedly helped Terry purchase an untraceable cell phone. Why would she need that? During this time, Dee Dee told journalists, "There's this horror that my friend is going through. If I thought for a second that she was capable of foul play, I would have not been there. She would not have been my friend in the first place." Well, you don't always know your friends, I tell you what. During this time, Terry failed 2 separate polygraph examinations regarding Kane's disappearance. Now, let me tell you what. I don't believe in polygraph tests. She could be just really upset that her stepson is missing, and any mention of him could alter her biological state, the things that it could raise her heart rate because it could cause her stress and anxiety hearing about him and not knowing where he is. She could get sweaty and agitated just hearing about him, or even get anxiety thinking that anyone would think she has something to do with this, which could alter the test. Not saying that she's actually lying, but there's so much stuff that could interfere with the polygraph that a truthful person could fail it. So I have personal experience with this, is what I'm saying. In August 2010, it was announced that law enforcement were searching for an individual allegedly seen by 2 witnesses sitting inside Terry's truck outside the Skyline Elementary the day of the disappearance. Bruce McCain, a former sheriff for the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, told CBS News the identity of that second person, if he or she existed, could be critical in determining what happened to Kyron after 9 a.m. on June 4th. In early August 2010, both Terry and Kane were subpoenaed and testified during the grand jury hearing, as was the school principal of Skyline Elementary. In December 2010, it was reported by the Oregonian that the grand jury had yet to provide compelling evidence yielding a potential indictment. By November 29, 2010, search efforts in Kyron's case had cost an estimated $1.4 million, according to the county commissioners, and yielded 4,257 tips. Terry appeared as a guest on Dr. Phil in 2016. Don't they all? I don't know. I mean, there's some families that appear on Dr. Phil just to get some extra traction in the case and to get it more known. And then I feel like there's people who are involved in the case somehow in a bad way that will go on there and try to appeal to the community and saying, hey, look at me, I'm not guilty. During which she told Phil, I was advised from the beginning by law enforcement, by my husband at the time, by attorneys in the beginning, not to say anything. I've always wanted to. I've asked multiple times to speak out and have not been allowed to. Okay. She denied having any involvement in Kyron's disappearance and also stated her belief that he was kidnapped, adding, quote, there was a man in a white pickup truck, Ford, parked on Highway 30 at the 7-Eleven, which is not near the school. He was acting very strangely, and he was addressed by one of the employees because he had been pacing back and forth in front of the 7-Eleven for about an hour, end quote. Kyron's mother, Desiree, believes the reason Terry was not arrested was because of Casey Anthony's case in 2011. Casey Anthony was acquitted on the murder charges. Unfortunately, that case had changed the way law enforcement would forever charge suspects in a missing child's case, said Kyron's mom. Which, that case, I'm sure all of you know about Casey Anthony and that whole case. If you want me to discuss that case at all, let me know down in the comments. But it's like widely well known and very, very sad. In 2019, in a search effort, someone had found a 10-inch femur bone in the woods near his school, but it turned out not to be human. Kyron's mom, Desiree, was present when they found that femur bone, and she had so many different emotions going through her. At one point, she was extremely excited because, she might finally find her baby and found out what happened, but she was also extremely terrified because you don't ever want to find your child's bone. So it turned out not to be his, so a wave of relief washed over her. Terry hid out for a while and attempted to change her name to Claire Sullivan from a murder mystery novel. If that's not weird, like, come on, what is? Why? Okay, one, I guess I kind of understand why she would change her name, because she's basically suspect number one in this case. And so I'm sure the media is constantly all over her for interviews, and I could see why she would change her name. But also, picking a name from a murder mystery novel, I feel like that's pretty telling. So, I don't know what you guys think. I'm definitely going to put a picture up here of what Kyron Horman would look like today. And I really have high hopes that he's out there somewhere. I really do. But would Terry be capable of selling him off somewhere? Would she be capable of murdering him? I don't know. Or is it a possibility that he was just kidnapped? But I feel like if he was kidnapped, that means he would have had to walk outside the school after his stepmom left. And somebody would have had to lure him from that school parking lot without anybody seeing. My opinion is that it was Terry, allegedly. So please let me know what your guys' thoughts and opinions are down below. I will definitely leave a number in the description box with the tip line. And stay safe out there. Just take that extra second to make sure that there is some type of adult that is aware that your child is there wherever you're dropping them off. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, fantastic day. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.